In the last video, we read how the drover's wife spent the night reading and sewing and thinking about the past. We get a peek into the life of this woman who manages everything on her own with some help from her brother in law. Let's read further. Only last week, a gallows faced swagman, having satisfied himself that there were no men on the place, threw his swag down on the veranda and demanded tucker. She gave him something to eat, then he expressed his intention of staying for the night. It was sundown then. She got a baton from the sofa, loosened the dog, and confronted the stranger, holding the baton in one hand and the dog's collar with the other. Now you go, she said. He looked at her and at the dog, said, All right, mum, in a cringing tone, and left. She was a determined looking woman, and Alligator's yellow eyes glared unpleasantly. Besides, the dog's thawing, chawing up apparatus greatly resembled that of the reptile he was named after. Swagman is a transient laborer who moves from one place to another in search of a job. Swag is a bedroll which he carries with him. Because she lives all alone, people like this swagman want to take advantage of her. She knows it all too well, so she comes prepared with a long stick and her dog to scare the stranger away. She has few pleasures to think of as she sits here alone by the fire, on guard against a snake. All days are much the same to her, but on Sunday afternoon she dresses herself, tidies the children, smartens up baby, and goes for a lonely walk along the bush track, pushing an old perambulator in front of her. She does this every Sunday. She takes as much care to make herself and the children look smart as she would if she were going to do the block in the city. There is nothing to see, however, and not a soul to meet. You might walk for 20 miles along this track without being able to fix a point in your mind, unless you are a bushman. This is because of the everlasting, maddening sameness of the stunted trees, that monotony which makes a man long to break away and travel as far as trains can go, and sail as far as ship can sail, and farther. There is not much pleasure in the bush. On Sundays, though she dresses herself and the children up nicely to walk out in the bush, there is no one to see her, but she promenades as if she is in a city. But this bush woman is used to the loneliness of it. As a girl wife, she hated it, but now she would feel strange away from it. She is glad when her husband returns, but she does not gush or make a fuss about it. She gets him something good to eat and tidies up the children. She seems contented with her lot. She loves her children, but has no time to show it. She seems harsh to them. Her surroundings are not favorable to the development of the womanly or sentimental side of nature. She is used to the loneliness, and even though she hated it when she first came here, she would feel strange being away from it now. She likes when her husband comes back. She loves her children, but life is still very tough for her. Her circumstances and surroundings does not give her the pleasure and the luxury of being able to feel like a woman. It must be near morning now, but the clock is in the dwelling house. Her candle is nearly done. She forgot that she was out of candles. Some more wood must be got to keep the fire up, and so she shuts the dog inside and hurries round to the wood heap. The rain has cleared off. She seizes a stick, pulls it out, and crash, the whole pile collapses. The candle is almost out, and she walks over to the wood pile for some more wood for the fire. To her shock, the whole pile collapses Yesterday she bargained with a stray black fellow to bring her some wood, and while he was at work, she went in search of a missing cow. She was absent an hour or so, and the native black made good use of his time. On her return, she was so astonished to see a good heap of wood by the chimney that she gave him an extra fig of tobacco and praised him for not being lazy. He thanked her and left with head erect and chest well out. He was the last of his tribe and a king, but he had built that wood heap hollow. Yesterday, she had hired an aborigine to bring her some wood and marveled at how much brought. She gave him extra money and complimented him for not being lazy. This man made use of the opportunity when she went looking for the missing cow. He was a king and the last of his tribe, but the woodpile he made was hollow. She is hurt now, and tears spring to her eyes as she sits down again by the table. She takes up a handkerchief to wipe the tears away, but she pokes her eyes with her bare fingers instead. The handkerchief is full of holes, and she finds that she has put her thumb through one and her forefingers through another. Tears spring to her eyes. She wipes her eyes with the handkerchief. She realizes she has poked her eyes with her fingers through the holes of the handkerchief. It shows her stark poverty and how this tough woman survives through all odds. This makes her laugh, to the surprise of the dog. She has a keen, very keen sense of the ridiculous, and sometimes or other she will amuse Bushmen with the story. She had been amused before like that. One day she sat down to have a good cry, as she said, and the old cat rubbed against her dress and cried too. Then she had to laugh. But she manages to laugh. She has a keen sense of the ridiculous and is able to find humor in odd situations. It is this quality which keeps her lively in this otherwise monotonous and mundane existence. It must be near daylight now. The room is very close and hot because of the fire. Alligator still watches the wall from time to time. Suddenly, becomes greatly interested. He draws himself a few inches nearer the partition, and a thrill runs through his body. The hair on the back of his neck begins to bristle, and the battle light is in his yellow eyes. She knows what this means and lays her hand on the stick. The lower end of one of the partition slabs has a large crack on both sides. An evil pair of small, bright, bead like eyes glisten at one of these holes. The snake, a black one, comes slowly out, about a foot, and moves its head up and down. The room is warm, and Alligator tenses up because he knows the snake is near. Observing the dog, the drover's wife too becomes alert with her stick, with her hand on the stick. The dog lies still, and the woman sits as one fascinated. The snake comes out a foot farther. She lifts her stick, and the reptile, as though suddenly aware of danger, sticks his head in through the crack on the other side of the slab and hurries to get his tail round after him. Alligator springs and his jaws come together with a snap. He misses, for his nose is large and the snake's body closed down in the angle formed by the slabs and the floor. He snaps again as the tail comes round. He has the snake now and tugs it out 18 inches. Thud, thud comes the woman's club on the ground. Alligator pulls again. Thud, thud. Alligator gives another pull and he has the snake out, a black brute 5 feet long. The head rises to dart about, but the dog has the enemy close to the neck. He is a big, heavy dog, but quick as a terrier. He shakes the snake as though he felt the original curse in common with mankind. The eldest boy wakes up, seizes his stick, and tries to get out of bed, but his mother forces him back with a grip of iron. Thud, thud. The snake's back is broken in several places. Thud, thud. Its head is crushed, and alligator's nose skinned again. The snake, black and 5 feet long, comes out warily. Alligator and the woman watch. An alligator springs. He chomps his teeth but misses, and the woman strikes with the club several times. Alligator grabs the creature's neck and shakes it. Tommy wakes and tries to help, but his mother pushes him back. Now the snake's head is crushed. She lifts a mangled reptile on the point of her stick, carries it to the fire and throws it in, then piles on the wood and watches the snake burn. The boy and dog watch too. She lays her hand on the dog's head, and all the fierce, angry light dies out of his yellow eyes. The younger children are quieted and presently go to sleep. The dirty legged boy stands for a moment in his shirt, watching the fire. Presently he looks up at her, sees the tears in her eyes, and throwing his arms around her neck exclaims, "Mother, I won't never go droving. Blast me if I do." And she hugs him to her worn out breast and kisses him. And they sit thus together while the sickly daylight breaks over the bush. The woman crushes the snake's head, lifts its body, and throws it into the fire. She pets the dog, and the children return to sleep after the tumult. Tommy, though, comes to her and sees the tears in her eyes. He proclaims he will never go droving. She kisses him, and they sit together as the sun rises over the bush. The bush absorbs, sucks up, destroys. It is a locus of desire and takes on the seeming attributes of woman. It threatened the bushman with assimilation, isolation, and death. It represented a force that might reduce him to madness, melancholia, or despair. However, it is also the ultimate prize, the ultimate thing to conquer and to possess. In Drover's Wife, Lawson gives a much more nuanced view of gender roles in the bush. His hero is not a bushman, but rather the bushman's wife. The drover's wife is actually quite critical of the typical Australian legend and sympathetic with the Australian woman. The Australian bush is both a real place and one that has taken on aspects of legend, a mysterious, rugged, and intractable frontier. It is a crucial component of Australian identity, and it is ubiquitous in Australian painting, writing, music, and other cultural expressions. In terms of a straightforward definition, the bush is the rural country of Australia. It is not necessarily the outback, but is the more inland and arid area of the country. It is removed from the city but can have mining and or other agricultural industries. Most of the time, though, it is isolated and wild.